All right, and we are, as promised, joined by Grace Sharkey. Grace, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing good, especially after that pep talk. Wow, that's why I love this show. It's like you wake up early and you get a giant cup of coffee just straight from Rick. So it's I love it. Thanks so
Well,
much for having me on.
no, it's our pleasure to have you on. And you know what? What are your thoughts? I'm going to get off script already. We probably knew that was going to happen. We talk about this industry right now, and we hear about the driver shortage. What are your thoughts? And I kind of gave mine, but where are you at with that, with the driver shortage?
Well, you know what? I wanted to kind of add on to that wonderful educated rant that you just went on. Yesterday I was just talking on the SiriusXM show about the fact that there's a number of elections held yesterday, and so it's like there's so many times I think we even report on FreightWaves the different infrastructure bills we have going on, issues with legislation not representing drivers correctly, problems with just individual FMCSA regulations, etc. And it's it made me think even when you're just talking now, it's like what are trucking fleet owners doing to make sure that even drivers are set up to vote to like have their representation. Think of how many millions of people that are on the road during these days, during these election days. What are you doing to make sure they have their absentee ballots? What are you doing to make sure that they are home on time, ready to vote, or can possibly get that in during the day? So there's so many small things I think that owners could consider when it comes to the lifestyle of a driver and how they could make it just a little bit easier. And 100%, we all know one of the biggest costs out there is recruiting and retaining and continuous development of employees. So it's interesting how you put it. It's like we might be upset with a number of drivers and their performance and their skills, but we aren't letting them go. If anything, they're continuing on with their career at a different company. So there's just so many different areas when it comes to especially development training in any type of career that I think is really important to creating a trusting long-term relationship with an employee.
No, and you bring up a great point. I mean, we'll go right back to AB5. What a better example than AB5 when this last year and a half, when this has been up and kind of in the stay and everything, where these drivers, the independent contractors, they were out working. I mean, in this industry, I mean, they were just busy, busy, busy. And all of a sudden, they didn't vote, they couldn't protest, they couldn't do any of that last year. They were too busy keeping our country going. And now, after it's too late, now we get out and we start our protest. And what did we do as an industry at that time to make sure that those that are going to be affected are getting their voice out? Just a great example there. Great point.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
All right, so here we go. So you talked about SiriusXM. You're part of Great Quarter Gals. You're on FreightWaves. You're a podcaster. How did you get involved in all of this?
Well, prior to FreightWaves, I actually helped build a freight brokerage up in Michigan to probably about $80 million, and then
Wow.
left there to start consulting. And I've always been a FreightWaves fan. I followed FreightWaves since it was a blog. I remember like their first like on live TV episode of like FreightWaves Now that they had, which is like so different and vastly different than the studio setup they have now. And I was really close to Kevin Hill and Dooner. I used to call into their SiriusXM show on the weekends to ask questions about our business and growing that. And a good friend of mine, Ryan Schreiber, in the industry, after I left there, was like, I think you would be good at this. I think you have an interesting point of view in the industry, and I think people would like to hear it. So I reached out to Kevin, JP, and a number of individuals over here and said, what do you have open? I'd love to contribute towards this, not even just a specific role, but just towards this organization as a whole. And I love the mentality of delivering such important news for this industry. I can't tell you how many
Sure.
times I've watched maybe just clips of like things on CNBC where they're talking about a lot of the topics we talk about on a daily basis, and it just kind of like goes right over their head. It's not it's very macro focused.
Yeah.
It's not focused on the issues, and I just wanted to be a part of that. And I'd always loved freight technology as well, so as I started writing, I quickly had the ability to join a few podcasts, a retail podcast as well that I do.
Oh, wow.
And then just this last March, the SiriusXM position opened up, and Kevin called me. He was like, I think you'd be great on it, and it's been an absolute blast so far. So, yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like a bunch of signs from God that I kind of just followed, and it's just been an incredible ride so far.
You still find this, and you probably know better than most, is this still, in what you see, a male-dominated audience? And if so, what have you done to really put yourself in there amidst all that?
I would say definitely yes. And even when we go to different live events, you can see it in the population. Women in trucking events are a little bit different, but I think the reason that we started Great Quarter Gals was for this specific reason. And what's interesting is a lot of the feedback that I get on the show, positive feedback, comes from males in the industry. I think that it's been lightly an accident that it's gotten this far with such little women in it. And I think a lot of leaders in the industry are starting to realize, we're just missing out on 50% of the population, if not more, as employees by not focusing on bringing more women on. There's a number of trucking companies that really pride themselves on the number of females that they have behind the wheel, and all that's starting to come out. And so with Great Quarter Gals, we really like to drive that initiative. We love to have people on the show who have been in this industry for years and years to showcase that there have been women in this industry. Maybe they just haven't been given the opportunity or can positively been invested in by their employers. So for us, it's just a way for me and Kaylee to kind of give back and hopefully positively suggest ideas to business leaders of how they can get more women into their business, and more importantly, retain them and grow their careers within their four walls.
Yeah, I believe we saw from women in trucking that the drivers went from like 10% to 13% with women involved in trucking. That's a huge number right there. And again, it really does for trucking companies, and shippers, for all of us receivers. We've got to really truck stops. We've got to change what we do today to get more women involved. Again, in an industry that is short on drivers, we have to recognize where we are failing and make the changes to bring those involved into the industry. And I will say this, with our trucking company, with most trucking companies, and it's probably no different than when you get out of high school, or I have kids that I have a son and a daughter that I have insurance for. Hey, guess what? It's a lot cheaper for my daughter than it is for that. Women, even in trucking, tend to have less accidents involved in the big trucks.
Yeah. I will say in the brokerage, whenever I did get a female driver behind the wheel, the due diligence was absolutely amazing. I can't tell you how many times I'd get calls. Yep, every single pallet, counted every pallet, they're all there, and it's like, God, what I have to do to get a guy to go behind the truck? So they're I think they're making up for lost time, and that's incredible. And it's funny. There's like an interview with Reese Witherspoon where she complains about a lot of the scripts in Hollywood that point towards, and we've all seen it, those movies where something's going wrong and the female leader is like, what do we do? What do we do? And what female has you met in your life who has no idea what to do in a crisis? It doesn't happen, right? So this is why I love this industry, because I think it's exactly a lot of the skills that women have just naturally.
Yeah, and you bring up, and it's a story I tell quite a bit, but inside when we have things that go wrong, typically it's a data entry, something with data entry. The data was entered in wrong. Something happened on that. And anytime that it's wrong, I always say this: a dude did something to the load. The dude built the load. It's just, and you brought it up in it when you're dispatching to the women, the detail that they're in, right? I mean, it really is absolutely amazing. And dudes just typically don't have that same attention to detail for whatever reason. All right, here we go, Grace. So you're known, and you call yourself a freight tech nerd. All right, what does that mean?
So, in my business, I was really focused on operations, right? Automation. How can we make people's jobs more enjoyable by taking out those stupid minutia tasks? A lot of the ones that are data entry that it's gonna lead to errors anyways. And there's so much technology out there right now. And what I really enjoy doing in my role is seeing those technologies, demoing those technologies, and then pointing the end consumer, brokers, shippers, carriers, etc., to the correct type of technology for them. I think what's wrong with a lot of marketing in freight tech is that it's very much everyone needs this tool. Everyone will be this can support any size trucking company or any size brokerage, and that's just not true. It's the same in our own lives. There's a lot of there's technologies babies don't need. There's technologies that adults don't need, right? So I like pointing out that in each different technology and what it's used for, what it's truly used for, and who the end consumer should be for it. I mean, there's so much out there right now, so much investment in this space when it comes to freight tech, and I think there's a lot of very unclear marketing in a lot of segments, and that's where I have fun, is like really pushing those leaders to say no, like what is this truly solving for a customer?
Like that part, yeah, because there is, and you hit it right. I mean, when you go to, and as many shows as you go to, even if you go to the you talk about the FreightWaves show that was just held in Northwest Arkansas, you see all of those vendors out there, and you quickly, they can't all do all for everybody. Some of them probably, they're better for a 10 or 20 truck operation as opposed to that 1,000 truck operation.
Yeah, and it's funny. I just had a conversation with someone yesterday. They're all very great at selling. Like they know they know the problem that they're trying to solve. They're very good at communicating that over, but not all of them are great at actually producing the outcome that they want for the consumer at the end of the day. So I think that's where I have a little bit more fun is figuring out, okay, where are we though on those steps? Is that a demo? Is that in beta? And what are people actually buying at the end of the day?
Yeah, and we're users of McLeod software, so I'll just start with there. And,
nice.
And no matter who you talk to, oh yeah, we're part of an integration with McLeod. You're like, are you really? And where are you at with it? Because it takes like three. Anyway, I don't want to get into that, Scott. But it's it's where are you at? Because I believe there's a lot of. I mean, it's phenomenal what we're seeing at the digital brokerage. All that we see entering into this arena. And Grace, I'm just going to say is that the data we have in our industry, it's really, I truly believe that it's only really good up to say 2018 when we got the electronic logs, because all of a sudden that forced us to all have the right data. And so you go back, and I tell that to shippers, receivers, you want to go back to 2015, but the data really wasn't good. Heck, we struggle with data being entered in the system correctly today.
Yeah, touche, 100%. And it's, I love that you bring up the LDs, because it's that, and we talk about like real-time visibility, right? And talking about making drivers' lives easier. And I think that is one of the things I'm looking most forward to with real-time visibility players, is getting to the point where the drivers don't feel like they're being tracked, right? That constant feedback that you get. I mean, I think you and I could go both ways on that argument, but a lot of the technology is literally quite literally tracking their personal cell phones. And I'm excited for the point that we can finally get to. I think it'll be hopefully soon, where our technology is so good with cameras on the roads and things of that nature, cameras on the trucks, that we're starting to track the assets and not the person behind the asset.
No, that's a great point indeed on that. All right, so I want to make sure I bring this up in here. there are a lot of women in our industry doing, that are important to what we do, from women in trucking to some of the podcast, Kaylee Nix, which y'all do on Great Quarter Gals. Hey, talk to me about some of the gals, some of the ladies that you that have been important to you, and maybe your go-to people in what you do today.
I'd say I have
Don't leave any
three.
names out either.
No, yeah, I'll throw the names out there for sure. Three in particular come to mind. One who's been a longtime friend since about 2015 is Cassandra Gaines, who runs the Mad Gaines podcast. I actually started reaching out to her because it's funny. It's when you're first starting a brokerage, it's hard to find lawyers who know anything about transportation that aren't going to charge you for the research for it. So she was a really great source for me to talk to and have an idea of how to run and run risk assessments of a business over time. So her and I have become really great friends, and there's a lot of, part of the reason I'm here today is because of the drive that she's given me and the confidence that she's giving me in this space as well. So she's a long-term friend right there that I will always support. Past that, I'd say after starting at FreightWaves, two come in particular. One I know is watching the show right now, Miss Ingrid Brown. She is an absolute delight and is just so full of knowledge and knows so many people in the industry that I just love hanging out with her, talking with her. She actually delivered a load up here probably about 6 months ago, and we got lunch, which was really fun too. And she's great at all the live events. And I really love about her. She's like, she has no fear. She's just gonna go for it when it comes to content. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But what happens in life, you learn lessons from that kind of stuff. So she's just an absolutely on fire, and I love what she's doing at FreightWaves too. And then the third is probably Clarissa Hawes. She is our investigative reporter here at FreightWaves, and the way that she goes about her job and the due diligence that she does, and the amount of people that she knows, just the amount of just like industry secrets and knowledge that she has is just like insane. I don't know how her brain can handle it, but she just covers her job so well. And I a lot of times we have to write about unfortunate stories in the industry, and a lot of those fall on her plate. And I hope everyone just realizes out there the due diligence that she does to make sure all those stories are accurate and that the right people are represented is a lot of work. And it's a lot of stressful work. Like, I love doing freight tech demos all day. That stuff's fun. But talking to people about, being let go of a job or how a company hasn't, you look at this Link.io stuff, hasn't paid them in 2 months, that can really pull on your heartstrings, and it's a lot of stress. So those three have been really impactful in my life and career so far.
Awesome, and Ingrid was on our show, I believe, last week. I know Clarissa as well. And again, when you see her on a story, it's always company went bankrupt. Drivers got stranded, and you're like, my goodness, what a tough job she has. It's like all she writes about are those things, but she is absolutely phenomenal. She gets down and dirty. She's the first person to go to if you have something, and she's going to do her homework. The first one you brought up, I don't know, because she's actually, and I just told this to somebody, I'm like intimidated by her. Anybody that stands up and does her things, and she's an attorney, she'll get up and do her thing, and she pops open a Bud Light. I'm like, all right, I'm out. I'm scared. I'll wait till I got to have a Bud Light before I talk to her, I guess. But no, I do watch a little bit of Cassandra Gaines, her show. Very passionate as well at what she does. And I love the passion that you have, that these folks have for what they do in our industry. Let me tell you something. If you're not passionate about what you do, and I want you to kind of as we close this segment up here, I want you to talk about why the passion for what you do. What is your why really for what you do?
I think at the end of the day, it's every single day I leave this industry with more knowledge than I have. And the end consumer just has absolutely no clue how any of this works. I love hanging out with my friends who ask me about my job and what I'm doing, because they're just like, It's so over their head, but yet it's literally everything around them. It's the biggest conundrum to me, to be a consumer and to buy from different retailers and buy from different stores, and or even complain about a delivery being a day later. So, but having absolutely no clue the amount of technology behind that supply chain, the amount of players behind that supply chain. People ask me like, "How does this work?" And I'll tell them, drive next time that you go long distance somewhere, count how many trucks you see,
Yes.
and imagine, who's finding those loads, or even an item that you see, right? Like something even like an iPod. Like, where did that metal come from? Where did that plastic come from? How did all those pieces come together? It's much more than just one simple OEM that makes the full car. Those supplies come from somewhere, and it's just, I love bringing it and making it fun content so that the average consumer, the friends that I have who went to college with me for law, that like are like, "What are you doing with your life now?" Can say, "Oh, okay, this makes sense, and this is why we're seeing higher prices, and this is why our global economy is going the way that it's going. This is why gasoline and diesel is so high, right?" So I just love making it digestible content so the average person has some idea of how their economy is running.
All right, Grace, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on here. As we close this, I want you to, to tell our listeners, hey, if they want to watch you on one of your many podcasts you do, from SiriusXM to FreightWaves, what's the best way for them to do that? How do they get in contact with you? And then I want you to close it. I want you to say your name, who you work with, and that you've been watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Grace, it's all on you.
Yeah. Yeah, so you guys can find me on LinkedIn. I have my link tree that'll get you to all of our shows. Check me out every day, Monday through Friday, from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Road Dog Trucking Channel for FreightWaves Drive Time. We take callers, so I'd love to hear everyone's opinions. And then on Tuesdays, Freight Quarter Gals is 3 to 3:30 on FreightWaves TV. And then Point of Sale is on from 2:30 to 3 on Wednesdays on FreightWaves TV. And of course, my name is Sharkey. I'm with FreightWaves and FreightWaves TV and SiriusXM, and you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right. Hey, Grace, thank you so much. Thank you for getting up. I know you have a busy day ahead of you. Make it happen and get that news out there. Thank you again, Grace.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, you've been watching BCB Live. We're going to take a break.